It is GG No Re. We have got an actual play recap, got a session report. We didn't record last time we played Dungeon Academy. Why? Because, we did a couple experiments before where we didn't record, and then we recorded. And this time we had Moose in from out of state, and we knew we were going to have a big group of people. And I, Daniel, the DM, just thought, I want to go back. I want to go back to that time when you're just playing your home game, and there's no need to worry about things that are said, getting up and getting minis, people crunching on chips, just a very chillax experience. So although it's not set in stone right now, we may do a thing where when we play our home games, like our homebrew stuff, we don't typically record those actual plays, but we'll talk about what happened. And Tim is here tonight with me. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, Tim.
To talk with me about that and do the recap, so it's not just me yelling at you. But we are intending to still do things that are more like what we've done in the past, where we take a module or a system and play that, and we will record the actual play for those, because those are the things that actually get more listens anyway. The smallest listen count we have is for homebrew actual plays, for obvious reasons, because it's not your game. Literally no one else is playing this. So,
data.
Yeah. So you can still get your actual play fix when we do other things like Into the Odd, which we might do another time of, or some modules. I've got some that I want to run. So we'll be doing those in the future, and maybe sooner rather than later. But we may do homebrew APs in the future. I don't know. But I think going forward, we'll probably expect this. Now, this hasn't been ratified with the board of GG No Re Incorporated.
It's true. Has to have votes.
Yes, but that's why we didn't record this time. We're not pod fading. It's just doing things a little differently. And to make it up for you, dear listener, if you go to our Patreon feed, patreon.com/GGNoRe, I do have some exclusive content which will be relevant to what we talk about today. So you'll see some of the rooms that we will talk about, some of the puzzles and their solutions, should you decide to become a patron. And they're modular enough that you should be able to drag and drop them into your own game. How
Man, I'm glad I'm a patron.
Oh, you better not look. You will be on the bad boy list. Tim's gonna be like, this is a clever puzzle, Daniel, but not clever enough.
You won't even know.
I'm gonna have to get you off the Patreon feed. Kick you off. I ban you. All right, here we go. So we started off, and there will be in the show notes an image of the overview of the outside of the dungeon, which is relatively complex. There's 4 entrances. It's a skull face. You've got a throat with snakes coming out of it. You've got 2 eyes that are high up with waterfalls coming out of them, one of which is guarded. And you've got a nose. They've went over the top of the nose by like climbing and putting down ropes with pythons. They went into the nose last time and then got up to the edge of the right eye last time, and that's where we stopped. This time we had 7 players, which is quite a lot. That's good. And we went in this big room with a waterfall in it, and they were very cautious. It was 80 by 80 with a big 60-foot, basically 60 by 60 waterfall in it. They walked around the perimeter, mapping very cautiously. There were 4 exits out, and then there was this carved, like, imagine you closed your eye and then just like cut out the entirety of the thing with the eyelid on and everything. So you have an eye that's shaped, it's closed, and it's shaped like, is it Stewie from Family Guy?
Yes, football head.
Football head guy. So it's just like that sitting on the ground. They messed around with that for quite a while, couldn't figure out what it did, and then moved on.
Yep. Poked and prodded, tried to push and lift.
That's some of the most fun stuff. That's some of the most fun
Nothing
stuff.
happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
No. Yeah, that's my favorite thing to say. Nothing happens. And I'll talk about this in the Patreon episode that I'll record. I'll record that either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how I feel, where I talk about some dungeon design notes, and there will be spoilers, so I don't want to put it on the main feed. But in general, to talk about this kind of thing, when I went to each one of these areas, like for instance, this is the right eye of the skull, I would list, before I mapped out anything, before I did anything, a list of special features that would recur throughout this area or sublevel, which is what it is. And so, Tim, you'll get this. These little eye things are one of those things. This is not just like a one-off item. You should find others.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you're usually consistent with themes and stuff going, so I trust that there's meaning there.
So I think they're kind of fun. You put one in the first room that they come to, probably, although there are other entrances to the sublevel, so that they see something unique to the level, and then when they see another one, they'll say, oh, okay, I know what this is. And then when they finally figure it out, then they have to remember where all of them are to go back and backtrack. So this feeds in with the map making and all that stuff.
Yes.
There was some map making.
Yep.
Were you the map maker?
Yes. I was someone gave me their mapping tools, and in IRL I started to map. Yep.
Yeah.
So
the in-game mapping tools.
Yeah, Jim was kind of meta mini mapping, and our stuff pretty much correlated, so that was good.
Yeah, we basically had one proper mapper and one kind of fake mapper for sanity checks, which y'all did a really good job mapping from what I saw, and I think I took pictures of it, which will be in the show notes. But systematically, you guys went and tried to see what exits were from the room, and then you wanted to stick. This was a good approach you guys had, to stick to the edge of the dungeon as much as is possible.
Yeah, because I mean, it's relatively skull shaped. You know, we know there's the outside of it. We kind of know the general shape of it, kind of where we're starting. So we're like, well, let's try to get the perimeter first, and then we can work our way inside as we need to poke deeper. But it helps us get a good feel, I think, for the size and scope.
Yep. So you guys went down, found an empty room, yada yada. Open a door. Here's the fun part: opening doors. So I did make a little mistake here, which we talked about in chat.
Forsooth.
Yeah.
You made a mistake.
But it was out of love. It was intent really matters. Okay, it's not. There's a difference between murder and manslaughter. So pleading that in my defense. So in old school D&D, you can't just open doors. Typically, they are stuck if they're not locked or whatever. So that means they require force to be applied to open them. Now, I thought since we're doing 5e, I'll just do the same thing and apply a similar DC. And in fact, if you've been in our Patreon chat, just our general Patreon chat, not just the players, you will have heard some of this discussion already. But the chance in OD&D and basic D&D is 2 and 6. So you roll a d6. If it's 1 or 2, the door opens. Otherwise, they have to try again. And I think 2 people at once can do it. I forget if that's an official rule, if that's just my rule. But I thought, okay, what's a 2 and 6 chance in 5e? It's approximately DC 15, which is true if your ability score is not modified. But since you're just rolling on a d6 in basic D&D, a +2 modifier is effectively like a +6 modifier in 5e because you're rolling on a d20, which is a larger scale. So I had the DC at 15, which was way too high, especially since these guys, because they're students and they're not level 1 adventurers yet, have already a -3 to a -1 modifier depending on who the character is, in addition to whatever their other stats are. So it was taking forever to open a lot of these doors, and each time a door attempt is open, or a door open attempt is made, I check for wandering monsters. So these guys got lucky that they didn't have more wandering monsters than they did, but I'm going to revise that DC down to 10 next time. I think it'll be a lot smoother. Maybe 12. Who knows?
Yeah, we might not have had 20 work checks for our for our athletics and leveled ups. I had 2 level ups on my athletics.
Oh, an additional thing. So it's just like Skyrim in this setting, or Morrowind or whatever, where each time you use the skill, you get points toward progressing it. I think I might revise that for these common checks and just make them count when you're under pressure and using them. So if you're being chased or something like that. But I don't know. It may not be as big a deal now that I reduced the DC, but you're still going to have tons of doors all over the dungeon. I don't know. I'm not worried about that as much now. The DC change will make that less of an issue. But you got through.
It's probably nicer to, I mean, considering that we're already at a disadvantage because we're students and that penalty we have, like 15 is pretty high to open doors, and there's going to be lots of doors in there.
Oh, yeah. So you did eventually get through, and you came into a 40 by 20 room with just a mirror in it, like a standing mirror. And this was fun. If there's nothing else in the room, but if you looked in the mirror, you could see a treasure chest behind you. So the guys figured out, I think Ace's character Tacitus just kept looking in the mirror and walking back, and then he could feel it on the back of his feet, and then decided to open it while standing behind it, and they got treasure out of it. And that was it. After that, you guys tried to get through 2 more doors, but kept on failing at the next one.
Oh yeah, because it was higher than DC 15. It was like
Actually,
18.
It wasn't.
Oh, I thought for some reason you said it was. Oh,
no.
But yeah.
So
we got the impression that it was harder to open, so we're like, we'll just go back and explore a different path that we kind of marked off for exploration.
Yep. And this time they went back and took a path they hadn't before. That was pretty close to where they had been. And they found an eye just hovering in the space. And it looked like it had a film or cataract over the pupil. And when they approached it, it ran away from them. But they did not pursue it this time. So
probably floated away.
Floated away. That's right. So they found another door that went back into the pool room. So they found that they've made a loop. And then they decided to go down into where the eye fled away from them. They had an intersection here with the door right in front of them. They went in the door and they found a mural. And on this mural, it showed like a princess running away from red-garbed soldiers. And as they were looking at this, one of the soldiers turned to look at them and stepped out of the painting. Or, yeah, I guess it is technically a painting. The mural. We had, I kept on confusing mural and mosaic the whole night. They stepped out of the mural, and the soldier started to attack one of the characters. I don't know, might have been your character, Geraldus.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, so they fought him and restrained him, and then started to question him. But by the time they were doing that, another guy stepped out of the painting, the mural, and started to attack them as well. Although they got some information about who they were, that they worked for, was it the Vanguard? That was it. And that they were trying to kill the princess or capture the princess. By the time they did this, they just subdued the guard, pushed him back into the painting, and then they defaced the mural, like scratched it all up. So that
like a bunch of hooligans.
Yeah, and they hoped that would prevent further guys from coming out of the mural. And in fact, it did. Now, I hadn't even thought about that. That was something that you guys just thought of doing, which is defacing the mural so it would stop working. And I thought it was a really good idea and it would probably work, and so it did.
Sweet.
Yeah. Then you guys went down, let's see, to area... you found another area, opened the door, and there was just nothing in there. And
yeah.
So I guess you chalked it up to an empty room and then left. At this point, you went back where you were before, where that door, you couldn't open it. But before you could get through, there were these two ghosts in, I think, black livery that approached you down the hallway.
Correct.
And Moose, who is our guest star today, he's been on some of our previous episodes, but he played our resident boomer in the Dungeon Academy, Antolius, who you guys rescued as an NPC, like one of the first sessions. And Antolius was just praying, and the ghost saw him and bowed and went away. So you guys got a freebie on whatever that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what it is. And that's the thing, the Wandering Monsters table and so forth, all the stuff in this level is tied into the lore of the level. So you don't have to do that in a mega dungeon, but I find that having factions and having all the elements in there, as many as is possible tied to the lore, just makes it more interesting. Now then, you guys finally went through all those doors again that you didn't do last time and got into a big puzzle room. And this puzzle room will have its picture. The guys have already seen the picture I drew of it, but I'll have the solution to it as well in the Patreon feed for this next episode that's Patreon only. It'll either be out Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. But we have 3 eyes on pedestals looking at a grid on the wall that has basically numbers on it. And you can unveil these eyes to produce different strengths of red, green, and blue light and point them at the different cells on this grid. So I don't think you guys have really much of an idea how to solve this yet.
Nope.
But when you tried to solve it, first of all, I forgot exactly what you did, but it was not correct.
Yeah, the first thing we did was we just lifted one veil from each eye and pointed all of them at the first number.
That's right.
You know, the first square.
And
it produced a fire elemental boy something.
Yep.
Some kind of junk.
Y'all killed the first fire elemental.
Yeah, that went okay. And then we said, well, maybe we'll try a different thing, which was... Oh, no. I think we're saying, well, let's go. And then John was like, no, let's try putting a different color, a not red color, on this one. So I think he took the blue eye. He just took like one of them and made it blue. He took the blue one and he just pointed it there, and it produced 2 of these fire elemental boys. Yep.
And as you guys were trying to flee, unfortunately, Tim's character Geraldus got burnt to a crisp.
Wrecked. I got burnt up.
Very sad. Very sad. They didn't really want to pursue the rest of you guys, and so they only had you hanging out unconscious on the floor, so they ended up finishing you off. Hate to see it, but sometimes it really do be like that. After that, you guys left the eye and went back to the nose, where you had this knight that was, and if you go to the end of the previous episode, you can hear what this encounter was like. You had a knight, or an apparition of a knight of some kind, that has this bubble above his head that you can touch and go into a vision of something that happened in the past. Well, you guys got in here briefly. There's 3 exits out, left, ahead, and right. And you guys decided to not mess with the other, you're going to try one room and then leave. And that's exactly what you did. You went down the left-hand passage, door's locked, you opened it, and there was a really weird room inside. It's pretty complex. You had cages on the right-hand wall with bodies in them that were glossy and covered with ears.
Oh, yeah, I should say at this point, I was beginning to check out because I was dead and I was very tired.
Yeah, when you die in...
But I got some of it.
When you die in my game, you have the option of coming in as another character because there's an in-world explanation for that happening. But Tim decided to just... It was already kind of late, and Tim decided just to, like, chill out. So he was half here and half not. But, so there's cages with bodies in them. There was, all on the ceiling, there were, like, hundreds of ears, like, as if they're listening down. There's a cauldron in the corner. There was a big clam-like creature the size of a pony also in the corner. And there was
like a fleshy clam, right?
Yeah, it was made out of ears, like 2 ears hinged at the back. Yep. And there was a door that it was in front of. So and then there was another door in the room as well. So there's two exits in addition to the one you come in. So John, I think, he had the troll horn, right?
Yep.
So this horn they got earlier.
There's ears. Instead of trying to be quiet, we should be really loud.
So he blew the horn, and of course it alerted all the things in there, and the big, huge ear clam thing started inching its way on a pseudopod toward them. And I forgot, I think Stefano Menelaus is he's playing Menelaus, the thief. He decided to like run in and get this book that's on a stand in front of the cauldron because they figured it was magic, and they were right. So he's going and dodging these ears that are falling on him from the ceiling. He gets the book, he's going back, dodging more ears, as they try to like come up at him like little crabs or whatever from the floor and then from the ceiling. And meanwhile, this big, huge clam the size of a pony jumps and intercepts him. So now Stefano is fighting this thing. It downs him. Somebody else comes in to fight it and also gets downed. Oh, it's Moose playing the boomer, Antolius. He comes in with his spear and gets downed as well. But then Jim playing Luna gets the idea to acid splash the ceiling and just get all these little guys to fall down. So he has a long-term solution for clearing the ceiling of the little ears, but the big guy is still a problem. The ranged people start laying into the big clam guy, so he gets the idea to get out of there. So he goes through that inner door, and you guys don't know what happened to him. Eventually, you manage to resuscitate the 2 guys on the ground while clearing out the ears on the ceiling. You bust open the door and start fighting the clam inside. But as soon as... Who was that? I think it was John's character. Yeah, it's Pluto. As soon as Pluto opens the door to follow the clam guy, a green slime falls on him from above. So now he's slimed and grappled by a clam that pulls him in further inside the room to break line of sight with the ranged attackers. So things are just going very badly for all people concerned. Eventually, after some good tactics, they kill the clam, but at that same time, the other door that they haven't gone in bursts open and 4 orcs come out of it, but they're being pursued by somebody. So the orcs leave them alone and go back out the way you guys originally came in. And so before whatever that's chasing them comes in, you guys lock yourself in the room that the green slime was in. It's apparently an ooze-like thing from what you guys hear. It goes and digests the clam and then begins to come under the door where you guys are. But somebody does something, and I forget what. Oh, I think they blow the troll horn again to try to try to scare it off, to make it think that there's a troll in here, and that does indeed work. So
wow, lucky.
The ooze leaves the room, and you guys manage to loot. There's some bookshelves in here on the far wall above some alchemical equipment, and that was probably your best treasure haul because they were worth like 160 gold.
Oh, wow.
All total. But you also got the spell book, and then inside the clam, you'd looted it before it was digested. There was another spell book and some money and stuff, and a key that opened the cages. So the guys, after this, you guys left and just went back to the Lost Estate, which is like the hub world area. And you planted you filled up the gardener's cultivation plots, which is where they can plant any kind of item and something typically happens to it when they come back. Usually it's changed in some magical way, either permanently or temporarily. So they planted a bunch of stuff, got a bunch of stuff identified. So now you guys have the spell formula, which the patrons will also have, to create those little ears on the ceiling, as well as the big, huge clam pony-sized ears. So your spellcasters can do that now if they learn the spell. So I think everybody got not quite 100 XP. Some people did their fake leveling up. And so I think some people got HP increases. A lot of people got athletics increases. And you guys found a bunch of, tropes in these that are specific to these dungeons. So maybe we can follow up on them next time. So that's what happened. So the last part of it, you probably weren't there for, Tim. But I was happy with the way it went. I think at first people were shocked, especially the new players, with how procedural things were. It was decrement your torches time,
Yeah.
So I think at the start, I don't know if everybody was super into it, but it felt like toward the end of the night, probably about toward when you were checked out, that's when the energy started getting more focused. I think people started to realize, okay, that we can really learn stuff about this, and by repeated incursions in here, become the masters thereof. That's the idea anyway. So I think it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll start, since you guys actually got back to the real world in an orderly fashion, not via TPK, we'll start next time in the real world doing the summary. We'll see which hall got the first place among all the halls in the school, and we'll go through all that. And then I think probably people will be wanting to do some research during this school phase on some images and so forth that you found in the dungeon this time. Who can say? But I thought it went pretty well.
Yep, it's a good session.
Yep, we had lots of combat. I used painted minis this time for pretty much everything. I didn't have hinged ear clam painted minis. Who would have thought? But for everything else, we were proper tabletop war gamers. And I think that's all I have to say about it. It was just a very workmanlike example of exploring a dungeon, mapping it, conserving resources. I think we're getting low on torches as well. So the guys made their play and decided to retreat at, I think, a good time. And they got back without any encounters through the forest. So all in all, a pretty successful night. Had a bunch of fun.
We learned a good bit about maybe some of the themes that we're seeing in the dungeon, and kind of maybe that the level we entered was quote unquote maybe higher than maybe intended. It was more of a sub level of the intended entrance kind of thing. So maybe we'll approach it differently next time.
We shall see. Like I said, patrons, check out our Patreon feed either Tuesday or Wednesday, and you should have a supplementary episode. There won't be an After Dark because there's no actual play, but I will have a post that gives you the spell information for all the stuff I mentioned, room descriptions, and the puzzle that I talked about and how to solve it. And even though it has some lore that's specific to my game, I'm pretty sure that you guys are smart enough to adjust it. And it comes with a really terrible drawing that I made, so you can give an illustration to your players. I didn't have it when these guys went through it, but they'll have it for next time.
I thought it was a really good drawing.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Would have been really cool to have
50
at
XP.
table.
50 XP for you, sir. Maybe I should start just offering XP for people who participate in these recap episodes.
Ooh.
Yeah, there we go. You get a free level up.
I am favored.
All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. GG no re.